It's time for the Talk of the Town with host Mayor Bishop Thomas Masters, co-host Attorney Lynn Hampton, and surprise guest speakers dealing with issues and individuals that are making a difference in Palm Beach County by serving the needs of the people. And now, here's Bishop Thomas Masters.
Okay, we're back. The Talk of the Town with Attorney Lynn Hampton. We have another guest today. Who do we have?
We do, Mayor Masters. We have Morgan Field from Epic Sexy You. Hi, Morgan.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
We had, we're recording several shows today, and we had earlier Love Coach Heidi on. And you two have a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences as well. And we're looking forward to hearing what those differences are and how you're operating in the world these days. So can you give us just a little bit of background about who you are and how you got to where you are right now?
Sure. So I am a life coach, and currently what I call myself is a dream dealer, which I'm excited to talk about today, which is really how do you make the absolute most out of every minute of your life and consciously living so that you can create what I call your heaven on earth, right? And it's never too late to be able to create a life that really fulfills you and to just squeeze all of the juices out of life. And how that progression, how I ended up here was I went from buying into what I feel like society teaches us or tells us is success, which is, graduate from high school, go to college, and, go and get a job. Yeah, go into the corporate world. And I just remember going through all of those steps relatively unconscious, and then getting into a space and place where I climbed the corporate ladder and I got to the position that I had always wanted. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't feel how I thought I was supposed to feel. So it's like the promised land. And then being there and going, oh my God, I have sacrificed so much to get here. And I thought that the sacrifice would have the reward of fulfillment. And it didn't. And in that moment, it really changed my life because I realized, how do I actually want to define success? And so I started to really play with new definitions. And now the definition of success that I consciously own and embody is how much time do I spend loving being me and spending with people that I am ignited by, and just really giving myself permission to do what I love and love how I do it and spend time with people I love. So that's what I work with people to help them really figure out, how do you create a life that really lights you on fire? And it's never too late to do that.
Perfect. So what type of work are you doing specifically right now? And actually, I want to go back a little bit. Tell us about your book, because I'm still reading that, and now I'm listening to you every day on Audible with your audiobook. So could you please tell us about that too?
Sure. So I have a book called Epic Sexy You, and it's all about filling your life with epic adventures, looking and feeling sexy from the inside out. It's very much about confidence and being unapologetically you. And so the book was written to really share the journey that I went through. And I did an audiobook too for individuals who'd want to take me, on the workouts or on the walks or in your commute. And so it's really when I call it the awakening, when I awakened to living more consciously and realizing, how do I actually define success? I was like, how do I do this? It's a thing that a lot of people, when they come to me, it's that obsession with how do I do this?
Right.
And there weren't any books out there that really were exactly what I was looking for. So it took me years and years. And as I went through the journey, I reverse engineered my own journey so that people could have something like a tangible, a lot of my tribe call it, take Morgan with you in your purse or your earphones, right? Because it's like the next best thing to being able to come to a live event or come to a retreat, right, is being able to first indulge in your own sacred space, reading or hearing what it is that was the journey. And the way that I did the writing was very Socratic. So it was consciously leveraging a series of questions,
right,
that will allow you to be able to find your own unique how. And then I'm very generous with sharing my own darkness and my own stumbles and my own stories of just really stumbling my way through to show people that, it's not all rainbows and sunshine as you go through your journey. And you can find a lot of humor and humility in your own humanness if you give yourself permission to not go down that path of shaming and instead go down the path of humor.
Shaming and blaming. That's
Shaming
right.
and blaming.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So, well, you talked about the word fulfillment. So tell me the difference between fulfillment and happiness. A lot of people are looking to be happy. And I think there's a significant difference between the two. And maybe once you reach one, you get the other.
Well, I'd be curious to throw the question back at you. What is your difference between happiness and fulfillment?
Well, I think happiness is something that's, for me, like something that's in the future, and fulfillment is something I can work on right now. And once I am fulfilled, then the happiness seems to show up. So maybe that's a backwards way of thinking, but my way of thinking, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is we all get to think for ourselves. So
Right.
that's why I threw that back at you is it's beautiful. It just a way that you think doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Right.
The way that I think, the way that, masters you think, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or wrong. It's giving ourselves permission to say what feels really good to me. And so it's interesting as I personally try on that question, fulfillment, to me, they're so intertwined.
Okay.
Fulfillment and happiness, bliss.
Right.
Just it's how do I feel? Right? It's joy. It's what are you radiating from every fiber of your being?
Right.
And for some people, if you're practicing things that are going to contribute to your happiness or fulfillment or desire or joy or however you want to feel, if you're practicing those things, it's like a muscle.
Right.
You will get more of that. But oftentimes we're actually practicing flexing these muscles or investing in a bank account of fear.
Right.
Or lack, or we focus on what we don't want, or we're complaining, and you're investing in something that you're actually going to get more of what you don't want. So
I think that's probably where I was trying to go with maybe getting clear on your vision, because people don't know what they want and they're waiting for the happiness to show up. And sometimes some of the work that you're doing some of the time will fulfill you. And that's probably from my perspective, at least. I practice law, I have clients, I make them happy, and I do a good job for them. That gives me fulfillment. It doesn't necessarily bring the happiness for me. So,
yeah, it's also interesting. One of the things that I work with people on is owning your own power. And part of owning your own power is realizing you are 1,000,000% responsible for how you feel.
right.
Which includes if you feel like unsatisfied by something and or if you do feel joy or if you do feel happiness. So if you're seeking for happiness
Right.
outside of you, you are always going to feel less than.
Okay.
So it's about how do you give yourself permission to own your power and say, I'm the master creator of how I feel and my own happiness. And when you do, and you take responsibility for the good, the bad, the ugly, you're actually able to start creating some really powerful things for yourself in your life.
So how do you help your clients dig down and figure out what it is for themselves?
Yeah, well, it goes back to one of the, and right now I'm actually training a group of coaches. And so it's really beautiful to reverse engineer my own process and see, how the way that I coach might be a little bit different than the way some other people coach. I do not actually feel responsible for my clients' feelings.
Good point.
And so it is unbelievable how much society has conditioned us, especially individuals that are in professions where we are helpers, where it's like you're helping if you're doing the heavy lifting for someone.
Right.
And I actually do not believe in that. It's kind of like going to a personal trainer. If the personal trainer is doing the workout,
You're not getting much benefit.
yeah, right? So
Exactly.
it's understanding I'm very conscious when I'm working with someone, when they're handing me their power. So sometimes I have a lot of conversations about this actually, and was just having a conversation with your guest that went on right before this, is sometimes people will pay you and feel like because I paid you, you are responsible for how I feel or my results or my outcomes. That is such a disservice to your client. If you are in a profession of giving,
Right.
if you feel like you are responsible to give as, oh yes, you give me money and I give you your happiness. That's not how this works.
Right.
I will help you create the neural pathways. I will mirror back where you are handing your power away. I will be radically honest. So I always have this conversation with someone up front that in working with me when I'm doing my job right, you are not going to like me.
Exactly.
And I do not feel responsible for your discomfort.
Right.
And so that is something, right, where I feel like a lot of times, and I watch parents do this, I watch people in different professions do this, all the time we feel responsible for other people's discomfort. And it's such a disservice because there's so much growth and beauty to be able to be had to have that discomfort.
Give me an example of a parent doing that. You said you see parents do it all the time. What would be an example that we could relate to?
Yeah, so one of the ladies who is in the life coaching training program, when we started going through this training of, okay, for the...
I'm trying to learn to be a grandparent. That's why I'm asking you. Go ahead.
Yeah, great question.
Of a 20-year-old. Drives me absolutely crazy, but go ahead.
Yeah, so we actually condition people to treat us a certain way by how we respond to what they are requesting of us. So as an example, the woman who's in this program said, for the week, the challenge that I gave to all of the life coaches that are training under me, I said, every time someone asks you a question and you provide them with an answer to that question, you are robbing them of the ability to think for themselves. So for this week, practice asking them their question back. I don't know, what do you think? And so her child came to her,
Okay.
called her, Mom, I got all these questions for you, and da-da-da. And her mom kept handing her her power back.
Good.
And her daughter goes, what are you doing? What are
Wait,
you doing?
You're
I called
changing
you.
all of a sudden,
You are
right?
changing that. This is uncomfortable. You're asking me to think for myself. And so,
Wow.
right? So it's giving other people permission to realize, hey, you are so powerful and you actually do know the answer you're asking me. Can you first just give yourself permission to think for yourself?
Wow.
And it's unbelievable when you give the gift of silence. People are so uncomfortable with silence and they fill it. So when you are in a position of being able to mentor a grandchild, right? Like how cool is it to say, you know what? You're really powerful. You're asking me this question. What do you think?
Okay. And you get silent. And you get
And
them
you
an
just
opportunity to
quiet,
speak.
yeah.
Get quiet and let them listen. The interesting thing about the younger generations are most people from older generations don't always listen to the younger generations. It's almost like this backwards rule in society somehow that the ones who have the wisdom are the ones who have gone through more. And it's like, why not give them permission to listen to their own intuition? Like, what a gift. And that's the way that I coach, is allowing people to realize they have profound wisdom inside themselves. They actually do know what they want. They're just not giving themselves permission to want it. And oftentimes people don't actually say out loud what they actually want.
True.
Well, let me give you another example. What about a person that seems to can't stay in relationships? They go from this one to that one to that one, and they're always, I don't know, they're not happy, but they seem to, is it a weakness? I don't know what it is, but they can't seem to find themselves. They can't, they have a mate maybe for 6 months, and then something happens, and they go to another mate for another 6 months. They always can't seem to find the right person for them. How do you help that person?
Well, my first question would be to ask them, what do they think is going on? Right? Oftentimes, people do actually know what is going on, and listening to that without knowing specifically what's going on, it sounds like that person is seeking something externally that they need to find internally. And so if you're always with someone, then you might be robbing yourself of an opportunity to take time to really spend time with you and get to really enjoy who you are, which creates a different level of confidence when you are going to engage and interact with someone. And then when you're in a relationship with someone, this is actually really common. So great question. Thank you for asking it. When you then do re-engage in relationship, you're doing it from a place of genuine desire versus potentially a lack of trying to have someone fill something inside of you that is actually your responsibility to fill for yourself.
Are you in your book? Do you kind of cover some of those?
Yeah, so what's really
those
cool
areas.
is the entire process of the book is really that. It's about creating a love affair with yourself, right? Like
First and foremost.
yeah, because then you can have these really, really profound, powerful relationships with other individuals. So whether it is, some people who take the journey to go in the Epic Sexy You journey, for some individuals, it is about love. For other individuals, it's about trying to find what they actually would be fulfilled by in their profession or their career. Or for some people, like individuals who may be listening, it might be about your identity is shifting because you're going into a new stage of life. Right. And no one ever prepares us of the fact that as we embark into a new version of ourselves. So as this individual, as an example, if we're talking about love, is going into a new relationship or a new phase or stage, or if your children are going away and you're an empty nest or whatever new stage that you're in, what often ends up happening is in order to create a new version of yourself, you have to let go of an old version of yourself. And it's like a metamorphosis process. It's like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. The butterfly,
you're right.
yeah,
It changes.
it has to go through that struggle period in order for the fluids to come out of its wings, in order for it to
So
fly.
how can we get your book? Someone wants to order your book like right now. Get the book. How
Yes.
do we do it?
Yeah, so you can get the book on Amazon, which you could do the print, and it's just Epic Sexy You, or you could do it on Audible. So that was one of the number one things that people were asking me to do as far as creations is create an audiobook. So you can do that on Audible. It's also on Amazon, and yeah,
much
take
is
me in
it?
your earbuds. I believe the print is around $22.
Okay.
That's what it originally was. It kind of does its own thing on Amazon. Amazon sets it. And I'm not sure on the
audio?
Audible, but I'm sure it's in that ballpark. Yeah. Or you could use your credits if you're on Audible.
Okay.
You told an amazing story in your book about giving yourself permission to say no. Tell us a little bit about that journey and
Just
believe
say
it
no.
or not, the difficulty in taking that journey. Because
Amen.
yeah. So your story, darling.
Y'all could see my eyes, how big they get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. The disease to please, people pleasing is a real thing, And so it actually goes back to, if you look at a reptilian mind, it goes back to survival. Like,
Right.
I could get kicked out of the tribe and then I won't have food and all this primal stuff. So we are these evolved beings and we still have primal patterns that are ingrained in our neural pathways. And so, yeah, the first time that I ever said no, well, first of all, I didn't even know that you could do that. Like, no one, and this is actually the story I opened the book with, because so often like when someone presents, oh, have you ever thought of doing this? I actually had a boss come to me and say, hey, I noticed you never say no with your team. I was a sales manager. I was leading 6 sales reps. We traveled all over the United States. And what ended up happening was we would be in spaces and places where it's like whatever they wanted and whatever they needed, I would just do. And I was putting in like 18 hours of work. And, if my family needed something, I would be there for them. If a friend needed something, I'd be there for them. I was being pulled in like 25
could not
different
say
directions.
no.
I never said no. And thank God for her, which is actually what's really cool about life coaching is someone can actually mirror back something to you
Yep.
that you don't even see. I didn't even see it. I mean, it was blatantly obvious from the outside, but I didn't actually see it from the inside. And so she asked me this really profound question, which is one of the reasons I love being a coach, because I now get to be the conduit of, holding that sacred space for someone else to be able to metamorphosis into their own butterfly that gets to fly. And so, yeah, she said, do you ever say no at home? And I was like, what is she talking about?
If it's a pattern at work, it's likely a pattern in your personal life, right?
Well, I was like, what do you mean
Well,
say
if
no?
if you take your business home with you, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, how we do one thing is typically how we do everything. And when
Yeah.
we have a pattern in one
we don't know how
area,
to separate.
it is showing up in all different places.
Right.
The beauty of that is when you clear a pattern in one place, it clears across the board. So
Cool.
when I practice saying no at work, it helped in my personal life. And when I practice saying no in my personal life, it helped at work. So yeah, what was really profound was she gave me this challenge, and she just said, for an entire weekend, I want you to practice saying no. And I kid you not, the very first time that I said no, and I share the whole story, which we don't have time
I'm
to
just
go
sitting
into.
on the edge of my seat listening to how this story's
Yeah,
going to
No,
end.
well,
she's
listen to-
it's an
listen to the
amazing
audiobook,
story.
because in the audiobook, I am the one who does the voiceover. So you'll actually hear, it's not a voiceover, it's me, right? But it's like, I'm the one doing
The
the voice.
author is reading her own book and adding her own input there.
So go
Yeah.
ahead. The first weekend you said no. I want to hear
Okay,
the
yeah,
story.
he's on the edge of his
so
seat.
I'm not going to let Lynn interrupt me. I want to hear the story
shut up.
before I forget the story.
So I had whenever you decide to take a challenge in life never disappoints. Life says, oh, you want to say no? I'm going to give you so many opportunities to practice. And so I just had this weekend where I had two very profound experiences that I talk about in the book. And the very first time that I said no, I kid you not, I threw myself on the floor like a child having a temper tantrum. Like my whole body was having a really hard time because the person I was saying no to couldn't hear it. And of course they couldn't hear it because I had conditioned them that I never said no. We had been friends for over 10 years and I had never said no to her. And then the next person, the next day, when I said no, it was the exact same thing. So when you start to change patterns, people will resist.
Okay.
So they're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to be uncomfortable, and you just have to have faith that you are doing it for the betterment of yourself and for everyone that is around you. And so what's beautiful now is people that are in my life and circle.
In your space here.
Yeah, they know what boundaries are. It's actually another program I'm working on right now because it's so powerful. Boundaries. Saying no is a boundary. Knowing what you want is a boundary. Asking for what you want is a boundary. Telling people and showing people in alignment who you are and what you will tolerate and what you won't is a boundary.
Don't cross the line.
That's right.
And so often...
You're in my space.
Yeah, so often we think that our boundaries are common sense. So why should I have to tell you my boundary?
Right.
What? No, that's not fair. Like, read my mind, you know? And so we have all of these experiences where individuals are walking around upset because people are paper cutting them through not honoring boundaries that
So
are...
what does
their-
that mean? Hold on. Paper cutting.
Well,
and
it's
you
like...
have all these little sayings like
I
that.
do.
What is that?
She creates
Deep-
all this stuff.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Cutthroat and all that paper. So what is that?
Oh, that's because
Paper.
we were shooting pool earlier.
I
I,
know.
was teaching you some language. Okay.
Yes, you was.
I grew up playing pool with my father, so I grew up in a pool hall.
So that's why you beat me today, huh?
Well, I
you
wasn't
grew
going
up.
to tell everyone, but you just did. Yes, I did.
So I should have said no. I'm not going to play pool with you today. No.
I didn't give you the warning, did
Yeah.
I?
So when I say paper cut, what I mean is the first time someone doesn't honor a boundary that you have that is an unspoken rule that you have in your own head, it's like a paper cut. It's like, oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
The second time, and it's in the exact same spot, it cuts that wound open again. Enough times of that same exact spot, it gets so raw, it becomes a trigger point. And now, if say a parent was the one who didn't honor a boundary and they created that trigger, now I'm in a relationship with someone else. And now they hit that same trigger point, and what happens is I have the same reaction that I would have had to my parent when it's like this person didn't even know this is the first time this person did it, and it's not a boundary. And we're walking around, this is rampant in society. We are walking around being triggered left and right without consciously realize what's going on. And so the work that I do is to allow people to take their power back and become conscious and become observers in their own life and active participants in their own life, and really figuring out how do you...
It's interesting.
Yeah, right? Like, what do
very
you
interesting.
want?
I have
you
a great
know?
question for you.
Yeah.
Your companion, does he ever say to you, "Don't try that stuff on me"? You know, don't. I don't want to hear that. You just don't try it on me.
Let me think back to different partners, because it's interesting, right? One of the things when you are in any sort of partnership, whether it's a friendship, whether it is a romantic relationship, whether it is a business relationship, it's about upfront agreements.
Right.
And in a romantic relationship, who you show up as is going to be different than the person who, it's like Lynn. Lynn's a lawyer. So if she was in a relationship with someone and she was Lynn the lawyer in the relationship, that's going to cause problems. You are the mayor. If in a relationship you are the mayor, that's going to cause problems.
Yes.
I am a coach. If in a relationship I am a coach, it is going to cause problems.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Right? And so it becomes this, again,
Don't coach me. I don't need you to coach me.
Yeah.
Coach those other people. We got 1 minute. Go ahead.
Well, it's all
Don't
about
marry
conscious
me.
living. It's all conscious living. And so that's what it really comes down to. So have I been guilty in past relationships of bringing my coach self and thinking I'm being helpful? Yeah, of course, I'm human, right? And
Right.
so, and then later I get to kind of laugh at myself and choose humor over shame and say, okay, got it. There's a difference. Be the girlfriend, be the partner, be the friend, versus be the coach.
Thought so. Be the coach, Lynn. You're the coach.
Be
You
the
got
coach.
1 minute left.
I'm learning so much from Morgan. I'm just thrilled to have her in my life. So it's one of those
Even,
things about upping your
Even
standards.
Danielle is
So-
smiling today. She
Yeah,
loves this interview.
I know. This is
we have to have her back
great
and do
day.
part 2.
Well, okay, we can definitely
I'm
do
in,
that.
I'm in.
So she's in.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
Morgan, we're running out of time. Thank you so much for driving up from Miami and joining us here today.
Yeah.
You're always a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks
Is
so
there
much,
an
guys.
email, the website? Whatever?
Yeah, so website is epicsexyu.com. Get your epic sexy you on.
Look at her. She's dancing a little bit. She got
Yeah,
we got a
fun,
little
y'all.
soul here.
There we go.
And that's all for now. Tune in every Saturday morning at 6:30 to hear the Talk of the Town with your host, Mayor Bishop Thomas Masters, co-host, Attorney Lynn Hampton, and surprise guest speakers weekly.